All right. Hello, everyone. I'm Zelpu, who episode 2 of the Eat Korret campaign discussion series. On today's episode, we are going to be focusing on dried tomatoes. And our topic for this episode is the truth about dried tomatoes, its color, its flavor, and its nutritional value. My name is Peace, and I'll be your host for today. And joining me on the call today, I have representatives from FHSA. I have with me Moru Oluwafemi. Oluwafemi is a program lead at the Food Health System Administration. With over a decade of experience in the food sector, he specializes in supply chain and operations technology, advancing sustainable practices across the agri-food industry. His work also involves capacity building around operational excellence, food safety, and climate resilience for MSMEs, positioning him as a key enabler of innovation and growth in the Nigeria's food systems. Now, joining Oluwafemi is Ogo Ekene Jacob. Now, Jacob is a passionate food technologist and product innovation with the Food Health System Administration, FHSA, where it supports small and medium processors in strengthening food safety, good manufacturing practices, and market access. With a strong background in food innovation and product development, Ekene has worked extensively on transforming Nigeria's indigenous crops. His work focuses on bridging the gap between traditional nutrition and contemporary consumer needs. With special attention to affordability, convenience, and health, he is currently leading several initiatives around new products, innovation, fortification strategies, and value chain strengthening, with a vision to position Africa indigenous foods as globally competitive solutions for nutrition security and sustainable economic growth. So you're welcome once again to this episode. Diving into the discussion real quick, we would like for you, Sir Oluwafemi, to help us address some of the myths around dried tomatoes, right? Because some people believe that dried tomatoes, when cooked, it darkens the color of your sauces or of your soups. So how true is this, sir?
All right. Thank you, Peace, for that question. It's a well-known misconception around Nigeria and the entire globe that when you cook with dried tomato, the resultant soup or sauce, whatever you cook with, will have a dark color. Well, this is not true, except in advent of where the dried tomato was prepared under direct sunlight, which is common or predominant among some people. But when prepared under hygienic condition, under controlled condition, like using a dehydrator, the resultant effect is a bright red color dried tomato that comes from it, whatever application you use this dried tomato for. So it's not actually true. So it's a misconception. But then there is a lot of advocacy around sensitizing people that are into this dried tomato to use best practices when it comes to equipment, when it comes to safety, and some other considerations. So I think it's something you need to see a dried tomato that is prepared under a dehydration condition, under a controlled condition. It will amaze you the color, the bright red color that comes from it. It's very interesting to see. All right, over to you.
All right. Thank you so much, sir, for clarifying that misconception. So moving ahead, in regards to the color, the taste, and the nutrition. So Ekene, I would like for you to briefly talk about how the dry deepens the taste and adds richness to the food products.
All right, thank you very much, Peace. The drying really does a whole lot, because when you dry, you're trying to reduce the water content of the tomato. And when you dry, you reduce it and it becomes concentrated. So there is little water in it because what you are doing is minimally drying. And tomato as it is has a sweet taste because it contains glucose and fructose, which is a fruit sugar. So when you now dry, you are trying to concentrate those sweetness, those fructose and the glucose. They have little quantity of water in it. It will make it more sweeter. So you reducing the water content of that tomato now make it more sweeter. And when you now apply it in your dish or soup or stew, it makes the soup or the stew to be sweeter because now you have those glucose and fructose in a concentrated form, which make it to be more sweeter.
All right. Amazing. Amazing. Honestly, I'm just learning about this right now. And against the misconception that the drying actually makes it darken, and also it reduces the taste. But thank you for this knowledge. So with this knowledge, I've been able to correct that misconception. So moving on, Mr. Femi. So how does the flavor, I think it's also relates to what Ekene has shared, but would like you to speak more on it. So how does the flavor intensify with drying? So dry tomatoes undergoes process of, like the name, dry, dry processes, right? So how does this intensify the taste, and how does it make our sauces and our soups, our stews to be more sweeter?
All right. So like my colleague has said earlier on, typically the fresh tomato contain a high proportion of water. Over 90% of it is water. So by the time it's subjected to drying, it exposes some constituent of this tomato, such as the fructose he has mentioned, which is the sugar it contains, and some other compound like lycopene and some other antioxidant constituent of this tomato. So the drying make the soluble solid content of this tomato available directly for applications. So invariably, when you dry tomato, the constituents that ordinarily will not be available in the fresh counterparts is easily accessible, even in terms of bioavailability. So you can easily have access to this constituent. So it makes the taste even more dominant in terms of sweetness. Imagine when you have a liquid that contains sugar. Now the liquid has been dried, so the sugar is easily accessible. The same thing with tomato. The sugar is easily accessible. The lycopene is easily available, and that's why you see the bright red color when it comes to the dried tomato. And the antioxidants, the malic, the citric acid, and some other constituent of this tomato is made available when it's subjected to drying. So the drying is not a less or a substitute or a backup for the fresh counterpart. That's just, the fresh counterpart is actually good, but what we are saying is minimally processed food too contains a rich level of nutrients that invariably might not find, or you will not find in the fresh counterpart. So it's a different ball games when it comes to the dry counterpart. So it's an advocacy we need to spread, and I think people are keen into that. Over to you.
All right, thank you so much for that. So still on the drying, so could you tell us what are the nutrients that are retained when the tomato undergoes this process?
Okay, that question is for me, right?
Yes, please.
All right. So tomato itself in its natural or fresh form contains several nutrients, vitamins, minerals, and the like. But then the drying is a win-win thing when it comes to dried tomato. Like I said, that you have access to more sugars, more lycopene, more antioxidants. We have several of these minerals being preserved, several of the antioxidants being preserved, but some of the vitamins, especially the E-labile, like the vitamin C, might not be available. But the mineral, when you eat this food, your body can easily have access to it as a constituent compared to the other. So in terms of mineral, you have several minerals. In fact, in dried tomato that might not be easily accessible when it comes to the fresh counterpart. Well, the only thing, the only loss that is recorded when it comes to dried tomato is the vitamin C, because it's label, but we have several other minerals more exposed in terms of higher quantity, which balances whatever losses that the dried tomato might have encountered. So I think minerals, basically minerals, citric acids, minerals and acids are widely present in the dry formats.
Thank you so much, sir, for that.
Let me add a little bit voice. Yes, I want to add a voice to what Yemi just said also concerning the nutrient that is still in the dry tomato. So just as I rightly mentioned, we all have the minerals. So we have potassium also, which is part of the mineral that is part in the dried tomato. And the potassium, what it does to the system is that it helps to regulate the the blood pressure in the body. Then aside that, also it helps to strengthen the muscles of the body. Then looking at other nutrients also, like the vitamin E, you have vitamin E there, which is heptocopherol. So the vitamin E also, that one helps to prevent the cell membrane from oxidative reaction. So, and you also have vitamin A there also, which of course is for the bright eye. So all these things are also impacted in the dried tomato. And the lycopene that he also made mention of, that one also helps to fight against cancer. So it's an anti-cancer agent. Over.
All right. Thank you so much, Ekene. Thank you so much, Femi, for detailing the nutritional value of the dried tomato. I really appreciate that. So moving to the misconceptions, right? Some people believe that the drying reduces the redness of tomato. Especially with our Nigerian jollof rice. One unique feature of our Nigerian jollof rice is the redness. So some people believe that using dried tomato for your sauces and for your stews, it does not give you that redness as much as the fresh tomato gives. So how true is this, Ekene?
Well, they might have it's right, but the truth of the matter is, just as Femi have rightly said from the beginning of this fireside, everything still boils down to the processing method that is being used. So if we are using a well-controlled environment, a good hygiene environment to process your dry tomato, you will add the tomato flakes to be in a red gold color. So, and most of the processors that are processing these dry tomato, some of them make use of the sun, the direct sun. So when you're making use of the direct sun, the tomato flakes will not come out as red. But when you use a dehydrator or you use a controlled equipment to process your tomato, you have it in a red color. So we have this because it's part of what we are doing to sensitize the female businesses, the businesses that are also into this processing of tomato, on how to process this thing so that the color will be uniform, so that the color will be red, so that it will be appealing, because that is what also attracts the consumers. So everything still boils down to the processing. And just as I've said, you also have it in red color if it is well processed in an hygienic, well-controlled environment.
All right. Thank you so much for that clarification. So Femi, could you quickly walk us through, the safety measures that one should adhere to when processing the tomato? I mean, when drying the tomato, what are some of the safety measures that they should adhere to, during the whole process?
All right, so thank you for that question. So I think it's part of the capacity building we have rendered so some of these businesses in recent time. And then the question also resonates with the fact that the misconception around the color is tied to the processing and the safety practices. So some of the best practices that is recommended or that are recommended when it comes to drying tomato involves the preliminary operations. So most often time than not, you see tomato processor obtain their fresh tomato from farmers, aggregators, or whatever source without sorting it. This tomato contains the fully ripe, unripe, controlled, bruised, and several other. So it is expected that the operator or the business sort this tomato, remove the unripe, remove the bruise from the bad and the good. So you can say, oh, because in production or in processing, if the raw material is not well controlled, it will affect the final product. So it is expected that you do the preliminary operation, the sorting, washing, then again, the core drying in itself should be under control process, not exposing it to direct sunlight. Because when you expose it to direct sunlight, you can't control the humidity, you can't control the temperature. There could be influx of foreign bodies, lizard, and the likes, as we've seen in traditional drying method, where they drying on the roadside or they dry on roof platform. So all these are not the best practices. But when you dry under dehydrator's, you wash where you are supposed to wash, peel the in some cases peel the flesh part of it, slice into thin sizes, because if the sizes are too thick, the drying might not be uniform. So it is expected that you slice preferably 2 mm to 4 mm sizes. So with this, you can obtain a very good product. So it ranges from the preliminary operation, cleaning, sorting, washing, and the likes. Cleaning could also be removing foreign body materials like leaves and or mother straws that comes with it when they harvest this tomato. So I think the core drying must be under control condition. So it's either use a dehydrator, which could be electrical or solar, or you use a solar platform, maybe like parabolic dryer for the big clusters, or a mini tunnel solar dryer for small businesses, rather than exposing this product to direct sunlight, which you have limited control over the parameters. Over.
All right. Thank you so much, Femi, for really explaining the safety measures during the process. So still on you, Femi. So could you please address this? There is this misconception that dry tomato are usually very expensive. In fact, it's way more expensive than the fresh tomato. And for this reason, for this fact, it is not affordable for low-income earners. And now part of the Eat Korret campaign is that we want to ensure that we provide an alternative food meal for those people that are not able to afford, good meal for themselves, right? So what can you speak to this misconception that dry tomato is usually very expensive?
Oh, well, it is not actually expensive. I think on the long run, dry tomato is competitive enough with the fresh counterpart, even though we are not doing comparison. But look at it from this angle. When you have a dry tomato of, say, 100-gram size, because this dry tomato, when you cook it or when you use it for applications, it swells a lot, because it's in dry form already. It has high water absorption. So what that means is if I'm rehydrating, I can get more quantity than the present quantity I bought. So if I bought, say for example, I buy 100 grams of tomato, by the time I add water to it, it can give me equivalent 4 or 5 times of the quantity. So invariably, I won't say it's expensive, because I'm getting times 4 times 5 of what I buy. And for that fact, for whatever application which this is being applied, there is a corresponding resultant increase. So it's not expensive, but it's competitive. So let me say it's competitive. And another thing is, by the time apart from its competitiveness, because it can last longer compared to the perishable fresh counterpart. If I have it, there is always a 2 season or several seasons to tomato in Nigeria, because there will be a time the tomato will be in growth season. We have a lot of tomato around, and the scarce period. So this scarce period, now if I have a tomato that can stay, say for example, 6 months on shelf, it saves me a lot. So at the long run, these are some of the benefits that comes with it. It can stay on shelf for a longer period, and then for that fact, even in the advent of scarcity where the fresh counterparts can be on the high side, I still have my tomato which I've obtained at a very less price. So I think it's a win-win for people to key into dry tomato and make it a choice for their various applications. Over to
It's amazing. Thank you so much, Femi. So over to back to you, Ekene. So I just want you to quickly share with us the different forms we can actually have dried tomato, because I've been to the market and I've seen some people have the dried tomato just the way we have dried pepper, and then I've seen the powdered form of dried tomato. So for the sake of those that are listening to us right now, what are the various forms we can actually find dried tomato for them to be able to locate it and know for sure that, okay, this is dried tomato. We're actually buying dried tomato.
All right, thank you, please. You can get your dried tomato in the various form. You can have it in a flakes-like. So the flakes-like is the one that is actually dried, but not milled. So that one, if you want to use it, you will have to mix it with warm water. Soak it with warm water and then rehydrate it back, then mill it and make use of it for your sauce or whatever thing you want to use it to do. Then aside that, also we have another one again that we call the dried tomato powder. So the dried tomato powder that has already dried and then milled into powdered form. So that one also, if you want to make use of it in your dish, you can also incorporate it with water and mix it with water and then use it to make your sauce also. So those are the two forms at which you can have the dried tomato in the flakes and in the dried from also in the powder.
Thank you so much for that. So could you quickly just share with us any cooking tips? Like you'd made mention of mixing it with water, and then before using it to cook. So are there any other cooking tips that one should know of? Because a lot of people are watching and then they'll be wondering, okay, fine and good. How do we use this dried tomato? How do we incorporate it into our meals? So any ideas, any tips you'd want to share with them?
Okay. Let me say, you want to use the dried tomato now to prepare egusi soup. So let me use the dried powdered one. So for the dried powdered one, you know that little quantity of it can give a high volume. So you just have to use a small portion of it, then mix it with the water first, and then before then, you must have poured your oil, your palm oil into the pot, then heat it a bit, then pour your melon, your milled melon into the hot oil, then you stir it, and after stirring it also, or before you do that, you can even pour the powdered and tomato that you've already mixed with water. You can pour it into the red oil and stir so that it can fry a bit. So when it has fried, then you can now add the milled melon into it. Then when you pour the milled melon into it, then you stir the milled melon. So you allow it to fry a bit. Then after frying a bit, then you can add your water, which might be your goat meat water or cow meat water, whichever water. We just start to stir everything up. Then add your condiments, your fish, your stock, and then every other thing. Pour your vegetables also into it, your seasoning, salt, and the like. Then taste and look if it has really matched up with your taste that you want. Then prepare your pounded yam with it, and then you have a good food there to eat. Yeah, trust that.
Then so the basic thing is that just ensure that you're mixing with water before you use. That's amazing. Thank you so much. I really appreciate your vast knowledge on this food product. So we've come to the end of this discussion. But before we go, we would like for you, Mr. Femi, to just give like a takeaway message for our audience that are listening right now. especially the family people, the pregnant women, the children, the fathers, the youths, that's the workers and the rest. Basically, the entire nation. So what's the takeaway message you have for them concerning these food products? And for those that have not heard of it, what message do you have for them? What advice do you have for them?
All right. Thank you for this question. So beyond that advocacy, saying the dry tomato is a good to go when it comes to nutrients wise, when it comes to aesthetics wise, in terms of its bright color and the likes, there is also a very critical aspect of this product, which is post-harvest loss reduction. So let me just break it down for a layman. What I mean by post-harvest loss is Nigeria produces a lot of tomato, and reports added that over 50% of this tomato is waste. So the impact of this waste means that waste of resources on the part of the farmer, waste of resources on the part of the land that was used for the cultivation of this tomato. But then to salvage this is creating value-added product from tomato, processing this perishable tomato to premium products like we have in dry tomato. So it will be a good thing as a nation, as an individual, to key into applying adopting dry tomato as one of our dish or one of our of the commodity that we should patronize, in advance of saying that, this will have a clear reflection on our post-harvest reduction. So we are saving a lot of waste, we are saving a lot of resources, and we are adding to the climate sustainability. All right, over to you. So my message is each household should embrace or adopt the usage of dry tomato. They should introduce it into their soup, sauces, jollof rice. Nigerians eat a lot of jollof rice. Even when you travel out of the country, one of the food Nigerians are known for is jollof rice. And it goes well because the bright color we add to the final appearance of jollof rice. So over to
Yes, amazing.
Over to you, Ekene.
Yes. So, Ekene, any final words for people that are listening right now? What's your advice to them?
Yeah, my final word for people that are listening out there is that those that have not tried this should go out there and try using the dried tomato to prepare that sauce. And then they should always eat Korret.
All right. Thank you so much. And with this, we've come to the end of today's discussion. Thank you so much for sticking around with us up to the end. And I'll see you on the next episode. Bye for now. All right.
Okay, let's go.